Mhm.
Want the TV on?
Yes.
First of all, to ask Senator McConnell and Senator Graham to have the Judiciary Committee of the Senate open up investigations on all these different states. As I said, Adam Lax also an article begging people to realize how much Nevada was set up to be stolen by the Democrats. Philadelphia is notorious for a place that steals votes. All those things ought to be looked at, first of all, by the law enforcement side, because those things are crimes. Second, I think he should be prepared, and as Jonathan Turley said, I think his commentary was frankly remarkable all the way through this. Presidents should be prepared to file suit in every single state, and he ought to go back and look carefully at Arizona. He shouldn't assume automatically that that was legitimate, and I think that he has to continue.
What's a personal link name, Marvin?
I have no idea.
Enter meeting ID
Yeah,
or
right.
personal link name.
Just put in what they tell me to put in. ID. It's what they wrote.
Yeah, but the ID isn't going through.
Okay.
So I wanted to know what the personal
I don't know what
link
that. I
name.
don't know what that means. I don't know. Morning. Hello. Hello, good morning. Someone is there. Morning, Mandy.
Morning, Marvin. Can you hear me or you can't hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, good. Baruch Hashem. The Gemara gets worse. That worse gets harder.
Couple more weeks.
Another few days, then we go into Noops. Pesachim. Who won the election? Anybody know?
It isn't over yet.
Aye.
Couple of states, Wisconsin, Michigan,
And Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
I don't get it. Aye.
Morning, Ken.
Good morning. We got a couple minutes yet. I saw Ted was at Dominion. Bob Bromberg's at Dominion. I assume they'll be joining us. I didn't see Irwin there this morning. I don't know. I don't see Harvey on yet this morning either.
Seen Harvey yet either.
Okay, let's just sort of see where we're at. Oh, yeah. Lovely.
What did you get?
Nothing.
Did you get yourself your picture already in that?
No, I sent you nothing.
All right.
I did everything possible.
No. Just start over.
I did.
You went to join meeting instead of
Here's join.
this one.
Here's join. Enter meeting ID or personal link name. And then I even click this. And it says Zoom meeting. And it's Shirley Weinstein, Zoom. Maybe they mean enter meeting in person. Yeah. And clear history.
No, don't put any of that stuff in. Just go back where
Yeah.
it says enter meeting, put in the ID number.
I did 100 times already.
Okay.
I did 100 times already.
Oh, yeah.
Enter meeting 439 891 7397. Okay, Shirley Martin.
Is it right?
Very good.
Join.
Meeting passcode. Okay. Meeting. This passcode was incorrect. Maybe. Let's try.
No, you have to get back to what I had before with you sitting there and saying.
Yes,
If
you got so far here. The passcode was incorrect. Please try again.
Can I just try it quickly?
Would you please? And I gotta get dressed.
Let me try just quickly. Because you have to go. Okay.
Here's Zev. Welcome, Zev. All right, we're going to get started in just a moment with the sponsors, and then we'll get into the share, okay? Zev, did you see it? Was Erwin there this morning? I didn't see him, so. Okay. I'm going to start the sponsorships. And then we'll go into the text, and then hopefully by then the other guys will be joining on. Okay. The Year of Learning by Dr. Paul Konigsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Konigsberg, Shimon Ruben ben Labush, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nisan Hara, Nisan ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Bromberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi. Friends of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov. Friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon. Cheryl Sher, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akiva. A Month of Learning, sponsored by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi, and his father, Meir ben Yaakov. Also today, a day of learning sponsored by Stan and B. Monsowitz in memory of his father, Moshe ben Pesach. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Kranker Rafia, Velti Yashir, Hashem Matzliah, L'chol B'nai Israel, a good Kaben Shpiach. Okay? So that gives us the list at this point. Bob, welcome. Okay. I'm going to get us started.
Morning, Rabbi.
Okay. I didn't see Irv there this morning. I hope everything's okay. Erwin wasn't in show, I don't think, this morning. Hope Ted was. Hopefully Ted wasn't sure. I know he told me he had a meeting this morning at 9:30, so he wasn't sure. Okay, I'm going to start us off on Pei Vav Amud Beis towards the bottom. Last 3 lines. Okay. Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya, T'tnan. Okay, that's where I'm going to have us pick up. Okay. And then we're going to continue. Right. So what was it that he was saying? T'tnan, he taught, Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya Omer, Gezuz Torah, Sheyesh ba Arba Amot al Arba Amot. According to Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya, as part of our review, we're saying that he's talking about a balcony that extends over water, and the size of the balcony is 4 amot by 4 amot. Okay? And then we go on, Choket ba, one can carve into it Arba al Arba, a hole or a square of 4 by 4 tfachim, Mamaleh, lower one's pail and then fill in with the water. Okay. Amarle Abaye, and Abaye says, Vadil Malohi. Okay, and Abaye is saying maybe that's not the case. Ad kan loka amar Rabbi Yehuda, that maybe your explanation of what Rabbi Yehuda said there, okay, and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya, right? Hatam ela da'amar good achit mechitzata. We said that that was a situation where basically one could extend and lower the partition. Okay? That's lowering it down to form, so to speak, imaginary partitions all the way down from the top, from underneath the balcony, straight down into the water. Okay? Aval kof v'gud lo. But if it was to bend and then lower, okay, that would not work. Va'ad kam lo ka'amar Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya hatam. And up to this point, Abai continues and says, perhaps Rabbi Yehuda, okay, and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya did not say this there, right? In terms of this balcony over the water, right? Ella biyama shel Tiberia, except in the example of where the balcony extended over the Sea of Tiberias. Okay, in other words,
The Galil.
Galilee, Kinneret, right? Why? O'il v'yeshla ogagim or oganim va'ayarot v'karpafiot, because surrounding the Galilee, surrounding the Kinneret, it's very clear that you have embankments and you have cities and you have open spaces. Okay? In other words, it's a very defined space. Makifotota, that they surrounded and they covered. Aval b'shar mi'imot, lo. But in other bodies of water, that's not the case. That perhaps Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya would not accept this idea of Rabbi Yehuda of what he suggests. Okay. Now, Amar Abaye, and now Abaye further goes on Okay, and gives another kind of case, another situation. Now, this situation is an example of, let's say, a window off a house, and the house has some sort of a ledge or a balcony that's built on below, just at the outskirts of that window. An example might be on 87A1 in Art Scroll. If you look at the diagram opposite note number 8, okay, we see that there's a ledge or something built out below the window with certain parameters. That's the same thing, by the way, later down towards the bottom of note 8. Okay. What are we saying? Uledivrei Rabbi Hananya ben Akavia, and according to the view of Rabbi Hananya ben Akavia, Haita smucha lekotel, that we have this balcony, or I may call it even a ledge, okay, close to the wall, but pachot mishloshat tfachim, okay, so long as it is less than within 3 tfachim of the wall. Okay, tzarich shehiyeh orka arba amot, and it has to extend out then, okay, 4 amos, v'rochva echad asar umashahu, and the width of this ledge or balcony is said 11 tfachim plus a little bit more. Haita zikufa, and we say that it has to be upright. Okay, all right. In other words, it's either sticking straight out, okay, or according to others, it's built so that it's sort of almost opposite the wall. Okay, so think of it. I'm thinking of an example, say almost like a fire escape, that one could climb out the window. It's a little bit removed from the wall, from the window, but still close enough that one could, on a fire escape, step over onto it. So likewise, and it has a rail on one side, okay? So likewise, this image of this ledge or this balcony, okay? And the railing has to be at least 10 tfachim high. V'rochva asarat tfachim, I'm sorry, 6 tfachim u'shnei mashahu. Okay, and its width in that case has to be 6 tfachim plus 2 a little bit more. That would be another kind of balcony or ledge. Okay, that's what he's defining as viable. Okay, we're lowering a pail to the water below it. Amar Rav Huna, Bered the Rav Yoshua. Okay, so however, another case, okay, another possible example, said by Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, Haita omedet bekeren zavit. Okay, in this case, we have a window where at the sort of at the corner, okay, and therefore we could say that the balcony runs, so to speak, on a diagonal, right? Okay, meeting the 2 corners. That would be one option. Okay, and the height of that border of that okay, of this balcony, in other words, the wall on again that joins it has to be at least 10 tfachim high. V'rochba shnei tvachim u'shnei mashuyim. And its width has to be at least 2 plus tvachim. Ve'ela ha-detanya, but rather here, okay, it's teaching us as follows, the following. Okay, Rabbi Hanania ben Akavya Omer, what is he saying? Right, that the Rabbi Hanania then is saying in this kind of case, okay, Kuzuz Torah sheyesh ba arba amot al arba amot, that when he says that it has to be a balcony that's 4 amos by 4 amos extending over the water, right? Chokek ba arba al arba, that one can dig into it, in other words, carve out of that balcony a box, let's say 4 by 4 tefachim, umimale, and lower their pail to fill it with water. Hechi mishkachavla, under what circumstances do we say this applies? Da'avida ki asita. Okay, it applies when he says that it is in a situation that that the board, okay, is shaped, okay, like a mortar, it's bent, okay, in some degree. Okay, so that's the right, and we don't really have per se an example of that unless we look at 87A2, the diagram opposite note 11. Okay. Okay, and that finishes that particular item. Excuse me. Okay.
Rabbi,
Now, with the new Mishnah. Okay, this new, yes, Ted.
yeah. Did someplace along the way, did they rule out just lowering something from the window?
Right.
That was
Right.
ruled out.
That was ruled out because you then, if the water is considered a carmelite, right? And so, and the house is considered Rishus Yachid, okay? You can't transfer from the carmelite to the Rishus Yachid.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to create a situation where you're putting your pail from one Rishus Yachid into another Rishus Yachid, which is this whole business with the partitions around the area dug or right onto the balcony, and then you can lower it. That's the situation. Or something similar to that, where you've basically created the balcony as an entire Rishus Yachid.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, the new Mishnah is going to give us a brand new situation. Okay? So, just to give a sense here, I don't think that Art Scroll gives us a adequate drawing, but think of it as follows. Okay, you have 2 courtyards, okay, and walls, and between them is a water canal. Okay, and that would pass. Okay, and that passes through this courtyard. Okay, and we have on one side of the water canal is in the same courtyard is one building, and another side of the water canal is another building. Okay,
In the same courtyard?
same courtyard. Right. So the Gemara, the Mishnah says, "Emet hamayim shehi overet b'chatzer." Okay, we have this one canal of water that passes through a single courtyard. Ein memalin himena b'Shabbat. Those residents of the two buildings are not permitted to simply lower their pails down into the water in order to fill it and draw it up on Shabbat. Okay? Ella,
Okay.
asula mitzvah gavoa asrat tvachim b'knisa u'v'yitzia. Unless what they did is they put some sort of a partition, a wall of at least 10 tvachim high, both at the location where the water enters the courtyard, as well as the location where the water exits that same courtyard. Okay, that's the point. According to Tanakama, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, according to Rabbi Yehuda, okay, who gives a slightly different example, Kotel, right? He's saying, Sha'al Gaba Tidun Mishum Mechitza. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that if there is a wall that passes over the canal, okay, let's assume that, right, that we have a canal and they built a wall above it, right, that acts, and that's sufficient to be considered a partition. And so they don't have to build, right, a brand new. Okay. Furthermore, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, he says, in attempting to support his view, Ma'aseh ba'amah shel aval. We have a situation where we have the town of Avel, which was near Tzipori, near Sepphoris, a suburb, and there was an incident there. He says, Shahayu mimalin mimena al piz kenim b'Shabbat, that they had permission to fill their pails with water, okay, on Shabbat, okay, based on the permission of the elders of the community, okay, and apparently it did not have any special partitions or walls on either at the beginning or the end of this water canal. Amrulo, okay, and they said to him, Mipnei shelo hayaba kishior. Why did they permit it? Because it said that this canal did not have the appropriate dimensions. In other words, it wasn't 10 tfachim, the canal wasn't 10 tfachim deep, okay, nor was it wide enough, okay, for tfachim in that case either. So since it didn't have those kinds of dimensions, okay, it would not be a Carmelite, and therefore, okay, it would be more like a Rishus Hayachid. Now the Gemara continues. Tanu Rabbanan, the Braita says, the rabbis taught in the Braita, Asula b'knisa, v'lo asula b'yitzia. Let's say they were following the example of Tanakama in our Mishnah, and they made a partition where the water canal came into the courtyard, but not where it left. Okay? Asula b'yitzia, v'lo asula b'knisa. Or they put a partition up where it left, but not where it entered. Excuse me. Ein memalim himena b'Shabbat. Okay, we say that they are not permitted to fill their pails on Shabbat. Okay, ela im kain asula mechitza asarat tvachim b'yitzia u'b'knisa. Okay, unless they made a partition
Both.
10 tfachim on height, both where the water canal where the entered the courtyard and where it exited the courtyard. Now, this seems to be somewhat similar. This Braita seems similar to our Mishnah. However, we go on. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kotel shel al gaba tidam mishum mechitza. Okay, again, okay, in this case, Rabbi Yehuda says pretty much the same thing that we saw, okay, in our Mishnah, okay, right? That if there's a wall built over the canal, that acts as can be considered a partition. Now, going on there, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Maaseh ba'amat hamayim shahayta ba'a me'ava l'tzipori. So here now, he's citing, however, a different incident, okay, where we have a water canal, not simply in the town of, or the suburb of Eval, but this is a major canal, okay, that went from one town, from Eval, all the way, and then joined the water system of the city of Sepphoris. V'hayu memalin himena b'Shabbat al pi hazkenim. And they used to, people in Tzippori used to fill their pails on Shabbat with this water, based on the statement of the elders. Amrulo, they said, Mishum Raya, based on that, you're going to you say that is a proper source, proof text, okay? Lepnei shelo haita amuka asrat tfochin v'rochva arba. Okay, why was it permitted? Because again,
Did not have
what
dimensions.
our Mishnah said it didn't have there. It said it didn't have the proper dimensions. Here, the Braita spells out those specific dimensions, but it wasn't, the channel wasn't the depth of 10 feet, and it wasn't the width of Arba. Okay, we now find another Braita. Okay, another Braita. Okay, also is going to discuss the same issue of water, of a water canal. Tanya Ida, the Braita says, Emet hamayim ha'overet bein hachalonot pachot mishalosh. Okay, if we have in this case again a canal of water, and it flows between the windows of the two houses in the same courtyard. But in this case, it's very clear that the width of the canal is less than 3 tfachim. Okay, so we see there the example now spelling out furthermore what we had previously.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
how could the canal be less than 3 tefach? A tefach is what, 4 inches? You're saying that they were
a
closer than
tefach,
about a foot apart.
okay, tefach is, could be about 4 inches. It could be closer to,
So then they're about a foot apart, these two windows?
okay. So if you say a tefach is with your hand closed, all right, that would be more like 4 inches. If you
Right.
say a
So
tefach,
it's a foot. It's about 1 foot.
okay, but if you say, so that would be 1 foot, correct. All right, that would be the width of the water canal. If on the other hand, you said a tefach is from your thumb to your pinky across, okay, that would be more like 8 inches. Okay, so then the canal would be like about 2 feet.
That's not a lot of space.
Right. Okay, but in this case, what does this Braita say? All right, if it's less than 3 tfachim, mishalshel deli umimale. According to this Braita, since it doesn't fulfill this qualification to be a separate reshus, from the windows you can lower a pail and fill in the water. Lo shah. Okay, but if it's exactly 3, or certainly 3 or more, ein mishalshel duli umimale. One is not, if it's 3 or more, one is not able to lower the pail and fill it in. Okay? Fill the pail with water, right? So now the Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel in this Breita says as follows: Pachot me arba, if it's less than 4 tfachim, mishashel duli umimale. Then, okay, if the width of the water canal is less than 4 tfachim, okay, one can lower the pail and fill it. Arba, if the width of the water canal is 4 tfachim, ein mishalshel duli umimale. Okay, one cannot lower it and the pail and fill it on Shabbat. Okay, b'mayaskina, what are we talking about? Ilema ba'amat hamayim gufa. If we're going to say, right, that we're actually talking about the width of the canal itself, right? If that's what we're measuring, right? Okay. Ve'ela ha dechiata ravdimi, but rather here, in the case, right, where we said Rav Dimi comes and says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Ein Karmalit Pchota me Arba, that there is no Karmalit, okay, less than 4 tfachim wide, right? Lema K'tzma'ai Amra L'shma'atei. Then we're going to have to say that we say here that this ruling seems to be based on a Tanaitic dispute. Okay? Ella. So therefore we can't base it on that. So the Gemara is suggesting instead, what are we measuring? We're not measuring the width of the canal itself, but rather Ella ba'agafeha ulahachlif. But rather we're measuring instead the banks of the canal, okay? And whether people have the right to exchange, okay, to pass the bucket and the water between the canal, which would then be considered a karmelis, and up to inside their house, okay, apartment, whatever, which would be considered a reshus hayachid. Okay? Why? Because if the embankment, okay, is less than 4, it's considered a makom p'tur. Okay? So you would be going from a karmelis, okay, to a makom p'tur, to then a reshus hayachid, which would be permitted. Okay? Now, Bahaki at the Rav Dimi. So the Gemara now says, but what about what Rav Dimi said in terms of Rabbi Yochanan? Okay. Bahaki at the Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Makom she'en bo arba'a al arba'a mutar livnei reshut hayachid livnei reshut harabim lekatef alav. The fact that Rav Dimi reported that Rabbi Yochanan said that if one has this makom p'tur, that if it's 4 by 4, that it's permitted for people, whether they're traveling in a public domain or a private domain, it's permitted to them to put their burdens down and on the, let's say, wall, okay? And in order to rejuggle it, to reset it, but they can't exchange it. Ubilvad shelo yachlifu. So long as they don't exchange it, right? Because that intermediate area is a makom p'tur. So the Gemara answers in that case, when Rabbi Yochanan made that statement, and Rav Dimi brought it forth. Okay, what was it based on? Hatam Rishuyot Deoraita. There we were talking about domains that are defined by the Torah, namely a Rishus Rabim versus a Rishus Yachid. Okay, and that's why it's prohibited to exchange the loads. Okay, let's go over. Okay, to Amud Beis, Hacha Rishuyut Rabbanan. But here we're talking about domains that are rabbinically clarified. And that's between a Carmelite and a Rishus Yachid. And generally that would be permitted because we always say in terms of Rabbanan, we go Lakula. Okay. Now, the Gemara, however, wants to say, wait a second. Vaha Rabbi Yochanan, the Rishiyot the Rabbanan Nami Amar. But didn't Rabbi Yochanan's statement also apply to rabbinic areas, right? Why? Ditnan. I'm sorry, Ditanya. Sorry, right? Why? Because it's taught again in a Braita. Kotel shebein shtei chatzerot gavoa asrat tvachim. Okay, if we have this wall that's between two courtyards and its height is 10 tvachim, v'rochav arba'a, and its width is 4 tvachim, ma'arvin shnayim ve'ein ma'arvin echad. Okay, that they may join in two separate eruvei chatzerot, and they don't join in one. Okay, hayu barosho perot. We had this Mishnah, by the way, this Braita. If on the top of this wall there was produce, elu olin mikan va'ochlin. Those on one side can climb up and eat it on the wall, top of the wall. And those on the other side of the wall can climb up to the top of the wall and eat that produce on the wall. Nifratz hakotel ad eser amot. If there's a breach in that wall, that's the width of 10 amos, ma'arvin shnayim, they may join in two separate eruvei chatzerot, ve'im ratzu, but if they want, if they choose to, ma'arvin echad mipnei shahu kapeta. They may, therefore, in that consider that breach like an opening in the wall, and they may then make a single eruv chatzeros between
both of them.
Yoter mikan. If the breach is larger than that, than what we just said, okay, more than 10 amos, okay, ma'arvin echad, then they are, I'm going to say, expected to make a single eruv chatzerus between the two, ve'ein ma'arvin shnayim, and they don't make two separate eruvei chatzerus. Okay, that was the statement of Rabbi Yochanan. V'havinan ba, and then they said, and we discussed this, right? Ein bo arba'a, if that wall does not have a width of 4 tvachim, mai, what's the status then? Amar Rav, says Rav, avir shtei rishuyot sholetet. Then the airspace over the wall is what controls it, determines, right, its status, right? That's, in other words, the situation. And when we said that, velo yazizbo milo nima, then one cannot even move anything off the top of that wall, even a hairbreadth. How? What does this imply? For Rabbi Yochanan Amar, but Rabbi Yochanan said there, okay, from his own perspective, Elu ma'alin mikan va'ochlin. ve'elu ma'alin mikan ve'ochli, that these can climb up and eat produce on the top of the wall if its width is 4 tfachim, and those others can climb up from the other side on top of the wall and eat. Va'az the Rabbi Yochanan l'tameh, and Rabbi Yochanan followed his own line of reasoning. Why? T'chi'ata Rav Dimi, because when Rav Dimi came, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Makom she'ein bo arba'a al arba'a, that a place that doesn't have a width of 4 by 4, okay, 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim, right? Mutar levnei reshut harabim v'levnei reshut hayachid l'katefala. There it is permitted for them to put their burdens down on that narrow, I'm going to call it for a moment, wall, in order to adjust the burdens. Ubilvad shelo yachlifu, but so long as they do not exchange it, right? They don't change their loads or their burdens from one rishus to another rishus. Now, says the Gemara, Hahi ze'iri amra, ula ze'iri kasha. Okay, this particular lesson, okay, was studied and mentioned by Ze'iri, okay, and it was problematic for Ze'iri, right? Why was that the case? Ze'iri mokimla ba'amat hamayim gufa, okay, that this whole issue that we were talking about here of the canal, okay, Ze'iri understood it that the measurement of 3 or 4 tfachim didn't deal with embankments and therefore didn't deal with the issue of a makom ptur in between 2 different domains, but rather it dealt where he understood it as applied to the width of the canal itself. Mokim la ba'amat hamayim gufa. The Rav Dimi tana'ahi. And Rav Dimi was actually talking about a machloket Tanaim. Okay, that's what he was saying. F'tahave ki chore karmelit. If that's the case, he would say, then perhaps one has to interpret it in regards to those holes, those crevices, those cavities, okay, in a Carmelite. Right. In other words, that's where we're dealing with. Abai bar Avin, the Rav Chanina bar Avin, right, the two of them, okay, claimed, right, the Amrei Travahi, Ein Chorin le Carmelite, that there is no crevices for a Carmelite. Okay, that these areas are not considered like a Carmelite, okay? Because a Carmelite is only the Rabbanan, okay, in this case. Namely, and now we have a further statement, okay, that Rav Ashi says, Amar afilu tema yesh chorin lekarmelit, even if you want to say that a Carmelite can have some crevices, some cavities, some holes in it. Hani mili bismucha, that's only if it's one's close to it. Hacha b'mufleget. Here we're talking about the fact that they're distant, that the width of the canal is one place, okay, and that it's right distant from the 4 tefach width of the canal, and so it wouldn't work. Right, you have too great a distance. Right? Now, Ravina Amar, kigon avad la nafke apuma. Okay, Ravina suggests another different explanation to the bright. Okay, namely, what did they do? Okay, that here they made entrance and exit of the cavities for the canal. Okay, in other words, they what we might call additional runoffs of water. Okay, from the main canal going towards each of the buildings. Right? Va'azdu rabbanan l'ta'ameh. Okay, l'ta'amahu. Okay, and the rabbis then each followed their own reasoning in terms of understanding the situation. Okay, because they could argue, as we saw with Rabban Gamliel and the Chachamim. The Chachamim said if it was less than 3, we could apply lavud, and therefore it would be close enough for them to lower to the building, okay, to lower their to be considered a single rishus, and therefore lower their pails. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel l'ta'ameh, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said no, it has to be question of 4 tfachim. Okay, in that case, that the law of Lavud applies only up to the gaps up to 4 tfachim. Okay, right, and that would not apply. Okay, and that ends that particular Mishnah. Okay, now we get to another one. Again, still dealing with the issue of balconies and water. Okay, this new Mishnah is going to focus right on, again, balcony extends over a body of water. Okay, Gazustara shehi lamala min hamayim, a balcony that is over a body of water. Ein mimalin himena b'Shabbat, we're not permitted to fill our pails on Shabbat. Ela im kein asula mechitza gavoa asrat tfachim, unless we make some sort of a partition 10 tfachim high, bein milamala, bein milamata, whether it's above or whether it's below. Excuse me. Now, we might think that above and below here could apply to either on top of the balcony or just below the balcony. Okay? But it also could apply milamala, that the partition is below the balcony but above the surface of the water, or below, actually below the surface of the water. Okay? V'chein shtei gezus tarot, and likewise, if there are 2 balconies, zo lamala mizo, one above the other, asula elyona v'lo asula tachtona, if they made partitions regarding the upper balcony and didn't do so for the lower balcony, shtehen asurot ad sheyarvu. Residents off each balconies are prohibited one to another unless they make, excuse me, a joint eruv together. Gemara, our Mishnah. Sorry, right? Just take a quick drink and then. All right, Gemara. Our Mishnah teaches, Deloka Chananya ben Akavya. It can't be according to Chananya ben Akavya, right? The Tanya, why? Because he taught, Chananya ben Akavya says, Gazuz Torah sheyesh ba arba al arba amot. If the balcony has 4 by 4 amos, chokek ba arba al arba, umemale. that one can then carve out an area 4x4 tfachim and lower the pail and fill. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra. Rabbi Yochanan then says, in the name of Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra, Lo hitir Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya, that Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya only permitted doing a balcony in that manner, Ela biyama shel Tiberia. Okay, for those balconies that extended over the Kinneret. Ho'il v'yeshla oganim v'ayarot v'karparfiot makifot ota. Okay, why? Because the Kinneret had embankments in cities and open fields that surrounded it. Aval bashar mimot, but in other bodies of water, no, that wasn't the case. Now, a new Brighton, okay, is going to tell us, okay, some other aspects of Piskei Din, of laws that Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya made for those who lived around Tiberias. Okay, Tanu Rabbanim. This is sort of a right. Devarim Shlosha Devarim Hitir Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya la'anshe Tiberia. 3 things Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya permitted for the residents of Tiberia. Number 1, Mimal'in Mayim Miguzuz Torah b'Shabbat, that they were permitted to fill from the balconies to fill pails for water on Shabbat. Number 2, V'tomnin ba'etza. Okay, that the second is that they can store fruit. Okay, and in this case, we're talking about use the remains of legumes. Okay, and use that as a kind of insulation for certain items, even on Shabbat. Okay, and the third item, umistavyin ba'alunatit, and that it was permitted to dry themselves with towels on Shabbat, with a bath towel. Now we're going to review each one. Memalin mayim begazustra, that they can fill for water from the balcony. B'Shabbat hada amran, here as we've said. V'tomnin be'etza, and we said the second was that they can take the remains, okay, of certain things, of legumes, of produce, straw or other things, right? And use it as insulation, I'm sorry. Ma'ihi, on what basis does he say this? Titania, okay, on the Braita that says, Ishkim lahavi psolet, if one got up early, okay, before they went to their normal work and went out to the field, okay, to gather this produce remains, im bishvil sheyesh alav tal, harehu b'chi yotei. If we're going to say that there is dew still on these remains of produce, then they fall under the category of ki yitain. In other words, which is the pasuk that says that liquids allow for a potential tumor. Okay. If, however, ve'im b'shvil shelo yivatel mimlachto, but if the person got up early, not to simply interrupt their normal work, okay, eino b'chiyitin, and they went to gather that produce, and there was certainly no dew on it then. Their intent wasn't to use that wet produce, but simply dry produce to use for insulation. Okay, vistam right? And ordinarily, right? Anshe Tveria Kamisha Lo Yavatim Malachto Dami, and the people of residents of Tiberias were normally considered like people who generally didn't interrupt their work. Okay, that would be permitted. Okay, and in the third case, Umastafkin Ba'alu Natit, and that they permitted themselves to use bath towels, right? Maihi, what is that? And we'll finish up in just a minute. The Tanya is taught in a Braita. Mistafeg Adam Ba'alunotit, okay, that a person may dry themselves with a bath towel, Umanicha Bechalom, and then they put it simply on their window without wringing it out. Velo Yimserena La'olairin, and they don't hand the bath towel if they go to the public bath to the bath attendants. Mepnei shechashudin al oto davar, because the bath attendants are suspect that they might wring out the bath towels. Rabbi Shimon Omer, and Rabbi Shimon therefore says the follows: Af mevi'ah biyado letoch beito, that one could even carry that towel back home on the assumption that they weren't going to wring it out. Okay? And that's where we're going to stop right there for today. Okay, because then we come back to the issue, our initial topic of the balconies over the water. So we'll pick that up again tomorrow. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. Everybody take care.
Okay, have a good day.
Good day.
Come on. Hello? Speaking. Oh, you know, I'm ready to go. Okay. Thank you so much. See you then. Thank you, dear.